Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are, or from whatever part of the continent you're listening from. Welcome to the Trading Without Borders podcast, and this is your host, Tomo B. Welcome to episode 67. Last week, I started discussions on the AfCFTA protocol on competition policy. I had mentioned in that episode that earlier this year, the African Union Assembly adopted the AfCFTA protocol on investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policy. And I started with competition policy, and we will also continue with that today. Today, we are going to look at the scope of application and exclusions. That is what we are looking at. So, who and what does the competition policy apply to, and what sort of conduct and practices are also excluded from the competition policy. So let's get right into today's episode. So under Article 3 of the protocol, it says that the protocol shall apply to all economic activities by persons or undertakings within or having significant effect on competition in the market. So for the benefit of those that are not aware, undertakings can be companies, corporations, enterprises. So all economic activities by persons or undertakings that is going to have a significant effect on competition in the market. That is, these are the people that the protocol applies to. Then number 2, conduct with continental dimension and having significant effects on competition in the market. So any conduct or act that is going to have an effect within the continent and also have a significant effect on competition in the market, the protocol applies to it. That means it falls under the scope of application of the competition policy. However, the protocol shall not apply to matters that fall within the respective jurisdiction of the national competition authorities. This means that national competition authority, that's the competition authorities of the various state parties. So all the parties that are signed to the AfCFTA, so whatever matters that fall within their own respective jurisdiction, then the AfCFTA protocol on competition policy shall not apply to such matters. Then number 3, however, states that where there is a conflict between the provisions of this protocol and regional agreements on competition laws, the provision of this protocol shall prevail. So obviously, regional agreements and this protocol, where there is a conflict, the AfCFTA protocol shall prevail. I had mentioned, I don't know if some people have listened, that usually trade is conducted within Africa within the regional economic communities. So we have things like ECOWAS, Economic Community of West Africa, and EAC, East African Communities, and the rest of them. We have SADC and the rest. So where there is a conflict between the provisions of the regional agreement and the AfCFTA protocol, then the AfCFTA protocol shall prevail. That means it will apply in such cases. So now that we have looked at the scope, let's move to exclusions. What sort of conduct and practices are excluded from this protocol? That's what we're going to move to now. Okay, so the conduct and practices that are excluded from the scope of, they include labor-related issues that are aimed at advancing terms and conditions of employment. So any labor-related issues or employment-related issues, for those that may know, it's basically if it's aimed at advancing terms and conditions of employment, it's excluded from the scope of the protocol. Then also, where there is a collective bargaining agreement done on behalf of employees for the purpose of fixing the terms and conditions of their employment, then the collective bargaining agreement will not fall under the scope of this competition policy. That means it will not. Yes, so that means the protocol will not apply to such bargaining agreements. And so this is where we're going to wrap up for today's episode. Next week, we will look at anti-competitive business practices and conduct, amongst others. And as usual, the podcast is for educational purposes only. If you need expert advice, or if you want more information, you can seek expert advice, or you can also reach out to me. My name is Omodbola Adekola on LinkedIn. And until next week, I'd say to you, bye-bye. And To everyone that has been listening, thank you very much. Please share, please like, please subscribe to this podcast. We need more people to get information on the AfCFTA. We need more Africans on board. Please share it and share with friends, families, colleagues, and the rest of them. And until next week, I say bye-bye.